This audio and its diagrams were originally posted to archive.org/details/20180228 November Sierra Papa Romeo Mike with those last letters in uppercase. You may use them under the terms of the Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License.
Take one.
Okay, shall we go back to where we left off?
Yeah.
Which is the 8th,
Yeah. The 8th of the 8th.
and the 8th is the 8th,
And you know that's very good luck for Chinese people. The 8th of the 8th.
right? Accordingly then. Why is that a
Accordingly.
problem for us?
Why is what a problem? The accordingly then?
Yeah, why is that a problem for us?
Because we don't see why it follows accordingly, would be my guess. But it is a guess.
Because he's making a distinction, and we have to discover what the hell distinction he's making.
The other than another? The other...
No. Specifically, multitude,
Oh, okay.
right? Remember,
Yes.
we sweat over that
We did.
on 4, especially at 158C 8 to 10.
164 C 8 to 10?
Yeah, remember that. Take a look.
Oh, so he's taking us back to the 4th?
Yeah, I'm saying that was the key concept. We spent a lot of time on it, and now he's introducing a variation of it, and we can ignore it at our expense.
To our peril?
So, getting...
Wait. We gotta go and figure out what you just said. We're looking at 158
Yeah, okay.
C4 to 10. Oh, that's true.
Right? Remember all
Yep,
that
yep,
talk
yep,
we
yep.
had?
Yep.
Okay, keep that in mind, all the talk we had, and now go back to the 8th encounter of Parmenides and the 8th hypothesis.
Okay, could we just
Yeah,
read
sure.
for the
Yeah,
record?
please, go right ahead.
Okay, this is in 4, fourth hypothesis at 158 C4, I'm gonna say. But we can start from the top. Is it not the case then that they are multitudes in which the one is not? Multitudes, certainly. What then? If we would be willing to take away through our understanding, dianoia, the least possible quantity from these, then is it not necessary that this very quantity which is taken away must be a multitude, and also not one, if indeed it does not participate of the one? It is
Right,
necessary.
keep going. Go
Sure.
on to...
By always considering that different nature of the ideas in this way as it's herself by herself. Oh, sorry, one more time. By always considering that different nature of the idea in this way.
Isn't the rather than that?
I think I read the idea. And by always considering, it could be either. It's anyway, it could be either. And I'm just reading Want's translation. By always considering that different nature, it's a hybrid. By always considering that different nature of the idea in this way, as subsisting herself by herself, will not then such a quantity of self, which we may behold, always be unlimited multitude? Entirely so indeed. And read further or stop? Pierre?
Well, then it goes on with the implications of that. You got it?
Yep. It's interesting here that they use oligos for least.
Now,
Less than
notice the language he's using
As
for
opposed to
unlimited
sleepers.
multitude.
He's using apeiros plathos.
Right.
Or infinite multitude.
Right.
Or,
Right? Okay.
Good, okay.
Now, keep that in mind.
And go to 8.
Accordingly then,
In
each
the
is
8.
other.
Okay. Accordingly then, each is other from the others. Yeah. kind of like, that's a plural each, which we don't have in English, I think, hekosta. So kind of like then all the eaches, or eaches are other from the others. No, sorry. Accordingly then, eaches are other from one another according to multitude, for they cannot be such according to one, and by the non-being of one. But each mass of selves, as it appears, is infinite multitude. Same term, apeiros plethos.
See it?
Mm-hmm. Even if someone should take that which appears or is opined to be the smallest, just as a dream in sleep, it then suddenly appears to be opposite to that which is opined to be one. So instead of that which is opined to be the smallest, okay, I did that wrong, I think, but let me read through. And instead of that which is opined to be the smallest, it would now be many. That is, an immensely great mass in relation to the minute fragments out of the self, or from the self. I wonder what he just does of with that. What a weird thing to do. Sorry, Juan. Because there's a preposition there that means out of, or from. Do you see that, Pierre? It's
Okay.
X out to out of the self, out of self.
Yeah.
At the end. It's not just of self. It's X.
Yeah,
Right?
I always like the presence
The
of
X's.
X.
The X factor.
No, it's key to the way the guy thinks.
Yeah.
The distinctions about the multitude in 4 were based on parts to whole relationships. And here he's dropped the idea of parts to whole.
Yes, and he also, it looks like the reason he's doing this difference is because he wants to talk about the sudden appearance of the opposites,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's true.
And it's
That's
an
his goal.
Okay.
So he has to vary the idea of multitude to allow that.
You have to vary or vary.
Very, V-A, V-E.
Yeah. Adjust, change,
Okay.
adapt, qualify.
Okay, but has he done that? Because it looks like he's still using infinite. He's still using apeiros plethe,
Yes.
right? So is that a variation?
Well, but it has to be.
Because
Well, because you're making different kinds of conclusion from each.
and the different. Well, there is an interesting difference too that's on my mind, which is this uses the word opine. The other one uses, say, take by understanding, by dianoia, right? So in the 4th it says use dianoia, but in the 8th it says use opinion, or you're opining it.
Yes, and appears. Key idea of appearance plays
Yes,
a role
fine,
in
right.
the
Yeah.
8th.
Absolutely, in the 8th.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And appearance, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, appearance,
Yeah,
kind of.
it's really opinion, or
Yes.
the general.
And in the middle, though, the sudden one is appearance. It's
Yeah.
finite.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So, well, it seems, a common translation besides opine for dokeo and those forms, doxantos, is seems, seeming, what seems to someone.
Yeah.
So you could take that also. That's kind of edging into the appearing realm. Yeah.
Okay. Is it clear to us that the term now is being qualified so that he can allow the distinction that he wants to make?
Which term is being qualified?
Well, multitude.
Ah.
Right. He has two conclusions, one from 4 and one from 8, that go in different directions. We have to appreciate the difference of how those two terms are being used. It looks like, from what you're saying, and I think we have evidence for it, right? In the one case, he's going to say this appears to be, this is a, right? And it's very important that the repetition of the idea of appears allows him to talk about it in the most extreme relative way, right? Like suddenly, right? That suddenly, out of, right? It's a form of exe, right? There appears to be the opposite.
And this is the sudden of the third, right? The suddenly in the third is the same word, exiphanes.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, does it also have to do with, in the fourth, it's considering the different nature of the idea. So yesterday we were playing with idea and the role of self, right? In the beginning of the analysis of the eighth, right?
Right.
Well, see, this looks like that. See, this is so interesting. By always considering the different nature of the idea in this way,
Right.
at the idea self by self, will not then such a quantity of self, which we may behold, always be unlimited multitude. So, but
And the origin of the multitude comes out of one another,
yes, rather
not
than
from an idea.
right, or the different nature of that
Or
idea.
yeah,
Even though we have difference.
like it comes out of the realm of appearance,
Yes. Yeah.
not from. It's not generated from idea. Therefore, it's not integral
Wow. Okay.
to the positive. Right, this is in the realm of appearance and doxe. Suddenly, things are the opposite of one another,
Like a dream.
like a dream.
Well, in the
So it's multitude according to that. What you were yesterday characterizing as like this cup exists because of that cup. It's multitude because of that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and you have to put it. See, what class of things allow that to take place? Because on the level of the empirical level, it's absurd. But it's true for people. It's true for people with minds.
that's how we segued into the discussion of pathologos versus self.
Could you give an example of that?
Well, we're left with the same possible problem. Does it help to come to a general idea of what each of these hypotheses can represent, so that then you can use the idea once you find it as a way of ordering all of the parts so that it can remain with you as a unity?
And in a way make those positions visible in the people that you encounter.
Yeah, because it's very difficult to do it with just pure metaphysics. But if you link them now, these people could link it with the gods. Right, they already have a whole set of personifications of ideas. We don't.
Yeah, that's true.
Like I was reading some papers yesterday from my students at the Holmes Institute,
Uh-oh.
and I have to go through the same horseshit, every time, Their view of the gods, they're all arbitrary, and they don't mean anything. The Greeks are just a bunch of stupid fuck-ups, and but to believe in such horseshit, that goes on and on and on. I have to say, shut up. You have no idea what an idea is. You don't know what personification is. You don't know how ideas can be hierarchically arranged, and whether or not ideas that are hierarchically arranged can be personified in sets of deities in order to represent the multiplicity of ideas presupposed in each class of ideas. You gotta wait for it.
You're just like a talking head of our culture.
See,
you have no idea.
No, see, they have a mnemonic device already in their culture.
Wow. What is that?
Well, all the gods.
Oh, the Greeks do. Yes.
Yeah, if the gods can be personified ideas that change, obviously because the gods can change in different contexts and in different relationships. Well, you see, if you go into a temple of Apollo, you have a set of objects around the perimeter inside. Right. So if you walk in and you know the order of the elements that are situated around the temple, you have a mnemonic device.
Memory palace.
Now you move to Athena, and you walk into the temple there, and all the items are arranged, they stay in the same place. That's naturally a memory device
Okay.
that you can hierarchically represent a whole bunch of ideas. Naturally.
I went on a whole search one time to try to find out what those statues were inside.
Yeah, of course.
I can't find it.
I know, but I assume.
You had tried that as well? Yeah, me too.
I assume I have the object.
Yes. Oh, cool. Yeah, I was just thinking I could have just invented some Athena-related objects in her temple.
So that's why, and the lost copy of the Parmenides, the last paragraph is now line up each of the hypotheses for the respective gods and demons.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did you happen to notice on that page which one was lined up with 8?
80s.
Okay.
80s.
So wait a minute.
So are you saying the hypotheses can function as a mnemonic device too then?
Sorry, it sounded like 80s.
Oh.
As well as 80s.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, that's what you were starting to talk about.
Yeah,
And then you went to the temple, and so,
that's true.
okay.
Yeah.
That's an interesting idea.
It's a natural part of their culture, though. See, we live in an artificial culture. Like we have memory devices that are arbitrary as hell. They work, but they have them with respect to their own culture.
Yeah, they say just use your living room, right? And use your favorite big chair as one, and your favorite pieces of furniture.
Nobuya once said he used you have one?
No.
Okay. He used the his house, family's house, which I thought was a spectacularly bad idea. But I wasn't as bold in saying so. Oh my God. Well, Pierre used to say, don't have midwife talks in your own house, right?
Right.
Or even in the house of the midwife. Because both of those places have pathologos associations or contexts or scenes that have occurred, and therefore
Ghosts.
they're like booby traps,
Yeah.
right?
A lot of visual
So
triggers.
for someone to set up a memory palace using their traditional parents' home, it just seems ludicrous.
Yeah, no, that'd be real.
I think I did mention
They
something.
keep alive what they should forget. So wait a minute, are we or are we not finding the difference
We are seeing differences, yes.
between the 2, 4, and 8?
Well, I hate to push that cognitive thing
Go ahead.
rather than empirical distinction you made, Pierre, but words like appear and seen and dokeo and finite, those aren't things that we judge that the empirical world does. These are things that humans do. And so you can't say that these distinctions exist outside of what one perceives and what one thinks.
Oh,
So
like
I just wanted to add to that a little.
look at the first sentence. there we have an idea of participation that is not participation.
Right.
Right.
You're in 4 right now?
No, he's an 8,
Okay,
just above, in paragraph 8 of 8, I think.
Okay.
Right, because it's out of, right, or it's from multitude, right? Right. Each is other than one another.
According to multitude.
According
By
to what is that? It's a kata.
Yeah, kata.
How much do we want to put into that term because it's a substitute for participation?
Yeah. It can mean, like, if you divide something by tribes, for example. So if it can be used distributively. So it could be saying that each is other by multitude, meaning in groups almost, which is what it turns out to be.
Let's say by virtue of multitude.
By virtue of multitude. That's closer to participation, which is what P.L. is looking for.
Just
And
hold
not by
that
virtue-
idea
not
for a
by
moment.
virtue of one.
Right. Just hold that idea. Is it possible that that's what he's saying? Right? Rather than from ideas, it's coming out of multitude.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Right. So he has a very interesting idea of multitude in the 8th. Right? The other from one another, it comes out of multitude. It comes out of, see.
And it doesn't have its origin out of self either.
Do you happen to have elements of theology?
I do.
Let me have it.
Okay.
If it doesn't take,
If it doesn't take...
A long time to unbury. I thought. Might be the way that ends.
Okay, well, she's looking for it. Look
Okay.
here. All right, hold that in mind. See, 4, right? Good old Gar, right? That should explain that. Should it not?
That's right.
For will not,
They cannot be so or such according to one.
yeah, forget infinite multitude at that point. Right?
Right.
Go ahead, read it straight from the Greek rather than substitute the English for nothing.
Okay, for they would not be such, David's offering by virtue of one and the non-being of one.
Here it comes. But,
Each mass of selves as it appears is infinite multitude. And even if someone...
yeah, that's enough. Right? He changed multitude into the mass of selves. Did he not?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's what you have to do with it, I think. I think you're
Mass of
quite right.
selves that appears. Likelihood. Oh, you said that's likelihood.
See, now I like Proclus. Right. Now,
Okay.
look what he does with that term in the first hypothesis. For him, each one of the pathos is connected with unity or oneness.
So the proposition 1 of the elements, every multitude in some way participates unity, or the one.
That's different.
Yep.
Yeah.
He has
Yeah.
participation.
He has a unity even on the level.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. He has, this is the one is, not the one is not.
Right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, here's the I think of that term in respect to this. Okay, of course we're dealing with 1,000 years later, but is he carrying that tradition strictly? Because that's where I also get ousia from him,
Yes.
right? That's most clearly expressing it rather than anywhere else, under the assumption that that's just as equally valid.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, look. For each part of the so-called manifold would be either one or not one. And if not one, nothing. So it has to be, it has to be divisible, the manifold. So his conclusion is, for on the one hand, nothing which is made up of an infinity of infinities right? And could you, my eyes
yes.
are going on me.
Okay.
Do you want more light?
No, it's okay.
Huh?
Do you
Okay.
want more light?
That's okay, she'll
Okay.
read it.
This is impossible for, well, it says, if each part be nothing, the whole is nothing. If many, it is made up of an infinity of infinities. This is impossible. For on the one hand, nothing which is made up of an infinity of infinities, since the infinite cannot be exceeded, yet the single part is exceeded by the sum. On the other hand, nothing can be made up of parts which are nothing. Every manifold, therefore, in some way participates unity.
Isn't that quite the opposite of what he's saying here?
Yeah,
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
So therefore,
Well,
he's making a special case here for that term.
yes. That is so bizarre that that you have on the one hand a multitude according to unit that in some way participates unity, and here you have a multitude by virtue of multitude. That's bizarre.
And that multitude turns out to be a mass of selves.
Yes.
So, and the big question then, it comes down to what you're going to call a mass, right? Okos, right?
Okos or okos.
Which is also the word for cancer.
Pardon?
In modern medicine, it's also the word for cancer.
Oh,
Oh, you mean oncology?
Yeah. Sorry, I just.
No,
that's a
that's
good
your
one.
cognate
Just-
thing coming in.
it's just
Your Greek and Latin for
just
medical
an
people.
unstoppable mass.
So
Yeah,
it comes
it
down
means
to,
mass.
have you, what do you do with that
Okos.
word?
If
Your lexicon here?
there's no unity to it. He still hasn't given it the idea of limit or one. It is.
I'll set up my computer to go online if you know how to do it.
It's like a plague. It just spreads.
Have it here with me.
So he's got each, see, he's got multitude. Hey, that's where each of the others come out of one another, and it really comes out of this idea of selves being a mass, right? So he's modifying multitude, saying, hey, we're really talking about a mass of selves, which I like, because that should be the eighth. Which is, it's not about things, it's about selves. Right, the previous point that we were making. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just trying to figure. Oh, here we go.
More coffee, anyone?
No, thanks,
Man,
I'm just like, no, thank you. I'm good too.
okay.
I'm fine.
Sorry. Where is that term? I think I'm in the right place, but I'm having no luck finding it.
You look for uncles.
I'm looking for Omicron Gamma.
It's yeah, it's what it is.
Yeah.
That's all I asked. So you look for uncles.
Oh. Well, you said on, and that's what was throwing me.
Uncle.
As if it was Omicron new. which it is in English, and maybe that's that. Okay. Well, see, the thing is, ogkos A looks like it doesn't apply. Ogkos B, where's B start? Sorry, Pierre, I'm just having trouble with this text. It's even finer than what I was just reading. Okay, it gives, metaphorically, bulk, weight, trouble, dignity. Yeah, it says in philosophy, particle, mass, or body. In Epicurus, in Asclepius, in the physiology of the blah blah blahs.
A mess of pottage.
Pardon me, David?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's an English phrase. A mess of pottage. It's just a big glop.
Bulk, mass, body. What I was laughing at was it says flatulent distensions. Which is your gas, like.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's not a very dignified term.
No.
But it's that emergence doctrine. I like that emergence doctrine you
What is
mentioned.
this?
Okay.
So
Okay, I
that-
finally found the start of it. It
We finally understand what a fart is in Greek.
The fourth hypothesis. The eighth hypothesis.
bulk.
No,
Are
you.
we still in 8?
We'll never forget that.
We're in the 8th. We're in Parmenides 8.
So from the original meaning here is in fact
Of
bulk,
cells.
bulk
Each mass of
size
cells.
mass of a body,
Got it.
Where did he get heat?
which doesn't get us very far. It seems to me.
It's kind of very similar, right?
Bulk mass. It's completely
He used the
what
word
non-discriminated, isn't it? Isn't it? Yeah, bulk mass body. A heap of wood is considered an ogkos, like a.
And by inference, it could be a unity.
A
But a
mass
unity
of
presupposes the
something
presence of distinct ones.
Right.
Yeah, it does. It does. It looks like it can be.
Yeah, here it is.
It's so weird.
Volume.
It's kind
The
of.
human body can be referred to as an ogkos. Do you want to look at this, Dave? I'm having no bueno.
Well, I get it what it's
No
all
swear,
about,
Dave.
but I'm trying to figure out how it functions here.
Yeah.
See, ekastos is an old word with us,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's using it as each.
Would you like to see what we pull up?
Well, that's
here? Generally, that's what it means.
that's not what's happening.
Okay. And well, those are that I think ekasta is a plural, neuter nominative plural. So you have really eaches. That's what I was trying to say earlier. You have a plural of each, what we don't have in English, right? So eaches is other from one another. It's like a bunch of eaches are other than one another. Okay, maybe it's referring to it as a collective group without having a collection, since there's
That's
no
right.
unity.
That's
Yeah.
right. It's a collection without distinctions.
Yes. Yeah.
Because the word each carries with it one, whereas each is maintains that multitude.
Well,
Kostos is opposite to the whole. Each as opposite to the whole. So,
each
So
But-
Each as opposite to the whole.
opposite.
so
Opposite.
it's where you have a whole. What's the opposite of a whole? Each part.
So
So
they're
it's separate from the whole.
they're pieces, not parts.
Yeah. Fragments.
Well,
You could almost say
Fragments.
as one of that definition, right? Fragments might be a better meaning
That's
for
how they
that,
function.
right?
And then my eyes
If it's
go
going
out.
to be complete, yeah. That do you have
Magnifying, yeah.
See, we want to keep, ideally, parts that have no relationships with the whole
Right.
for the eighth,
Gotcha.
right? So it looks like if we're taking, like if we take David's suggestion, then you can talk about parts as long as you don't relate them to the idea of whole. So you're taking them as separate and distinct
He
in
suggested
a collection, but they do not collect into a unity or a whole.
fragments. He suggested fragment rather than, well,
That's good.
That's how they function.
because it's not,
Yeah, but
fragments.
I'd like to have that idea behind it, where
Behind
the
it.
idea of fragment is the result of that reflection
Yes,
for myself.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
the reflection is
Yeah. So, now look here. If we have that idea, now he's saying, now this thing appears, it appears, God, you know, it has the appearance of infinite multitude. Therefore, it is not the same as in the fourth hypothesis. And then what he wants to talk about, he's now going to unpack the idea of appearance. Right?
maybe that can be.
And his idea of the property of appearance is that suddenly it can become opposites. Right? It jumps out. Whatever you say about it, it could also be its opposite.
Whatever. That's interesting.
Now, I can make opposites in the physical world that matches that.
This
It
appears.
takes a lot of skill if you want to try to match it.
Let's see it.
Go for it.
Hey, this is bigger than this, but it's smaller than this. Oh, by the way, equally well, this is the biggest when I compare it with this, but now it's going to be smaller than this. Comparative judgments are relative. Right? And suddenly the smallest, the smaller is going to become the greater, depending upon what I compare it with. Agree?
Yeah.
Well, then suddenly it can be both small and large. Can't it? Now, I know this takes a great deal of thought.
Do you
In principle, right, all comparative judgments have that quality. Now he's going to apply it to the selves.
Okay.
Now we got to see what he means, because that's what he's saying, right?
Oh, cheesy. I tell you.
Yeah. Hyp8, autois.
Yeah, okay. Can I put this in?
What's the hyp8? Autois there.
And the big thing is that he's applying it, agree? He's applying it to the idea of self. Agree? This whole passage is nothing other than how to understand the self in the eighth hypothesis.
Yes. That's where, yes.
So there are no standards. There are no standards, they're only comparative. Is that right?
And they come and go.
They-
by the nature of
Yeah,
comparatives.
just by nature.
And they appear.
Right?
You want a marker here or chalk?
Yeah.
You know, I can move this. Oh, okay.
Got a tortilla?
I do.
Choose Jules. Gee, we should definitely have it here on Friday. You know why?
No.
Because now we have all the tools we
Right.
need.
That's the essential issue.
Can you read it, Pierre?
How does self change from one to the other?
Oh, fantastic.
Here, we have this kind of a diagram. Agree?
Yeah.
Right?
In various combinations.
And here it loses that unity.
Boy, I absolutely can't
Right.
see them.
So now,
There could be encircling four
Oh.
at a time.
The other personifies.
Those are the groups of others.
they're essentially in a dreamlike condition. And they can become like one another. They can switch into their opposites. Right?
The lasting conclusions.
They can switch into the other. Each can switch into the other.
But they don't have that
In four.
unity of being other than the others. Right? There's no contrast. Right? This is in the realm of, so
He's drawing one circle representing
Yeah,
4
so
and one representing 8 and is
they-
talking about the distinctions.
yeah.
The last
in
one
this
being
passage-
with respect to 4.
In this passage, we lose the contrast between other than the others, right? And now that they have a dreamlike quality, and they can become one another with the slightest difference. Right now, if this is the idea of self, as kind of absolutely as all is relative in the extreme. Then a leader can be a follower and a follower can be a leader. Right, all distinctions, they can pass back and forth with one another. They have no standard. Right? Does that not make it all in the realm of the selves? All is relative. Now be careful that if you come to that, because you're putting a name on the whole, right? Now,
You're putting a name on the whole as, you mean naming that dynamic or?
I'm saying that we're risking giving a name to the whole of the eighth hypothesis
Gotcha.
as all is relative in the extreme. Because we're talking about people, selves.
And we're not prepared to do that just yet, are you saying?
Yeah, pardon?
And we're not prepared to do that just yet, to give it
Well,
a name.
you be careful because whatever name you have, you're going to keep it.
Yeah, we should make sure as we carry it through and see that the rest of the 8
Yeah,
fits.
yeah, it has to, from this point on, this has to fall into doubt, right? We got to make sure it fits.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Are you done with that? Or you
Yeah,
want
just
to
turn it off.
Okay.
Now, should we not give David the task, or do you think Julie should have the task?
It's a difficult choice.
Well-
Maybe we should hear the task.
Oh, okay. Which which kind of entity in Greek mythology would fit that if we want to keep playing the game?
Proteus. There's a Proteus figure.
It is a Proteus figure. That's what I call it.
Yeah? Yeah, that, because it's constantly shifting.
Right? Now be careful now. We're going to start putting names on them from Greek mythology.
You mentioned that earlier with demons. Demons.
Wasn't Proteus also, like, his claim to fame in a way was that he was indefeatable because he could make all those shifts, right? He had to be finally captured by, I don't know, Hercules? Theseus! But that he could make that constant shifting, which makes him a figure with a certain function, or, you're right?
Yeah.
To attack the logos in a way.
Yeah.
Trump. No, wait. Everything looks Trump-like these days. All the
Now,
bad stuff.
see, now, Aristotle says, you're right, it is a realm of orthodoxy.
Right, you're most correct about that.
Right.
Yep.
Most correct, most.
Most straight, most right on. Direct. To the heart of it.
Right, it's the most orthodox view.
Yeah, it is. That's interesting that you use that word. That's very interesting.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Because if that's behind it, then this guy would say, oh yeah, man, I know what you're talking about. See, all of this stuff is in their, is part of their culture, it's not part of ours, so we're putting it back.
So what, when you say orthodox, what is that? I mean, I know that they talk about orthodox religion, meaning the original core belief of something, right?
I would put it in the sense that it's
Pure.
You have named it rightly.
Okay. Okay, oh, that's great. The doctrine of
Orthodox.
what is it called?
The word.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doctrine of naming?
Orthotata.
Yeah.
Rectification of names.
Rectification of names, so this is saying, you have rectified that name.
You got rectification of names.
Yeah, I like that. That's one of my favorites.
Right. Where does it come from?
From you.
From, no.
And Confucius.
Right. Right. Rectification. Great principle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. All midwifery is nothing other than rectification of names. That's orthodox.
That's orthodox. I love it.
Yeah.
Well.
Doxe meaning, that's interesting.
Meaning something.
Okay, now we're
you
going to pick up
believe-
that great term, right, which David so correctly called akin to cancer, right? Surely then, among such masses, the others will be other than one another. Right? Now, does that follow according to our imagery? We're linking all is relative to our good old Proteus, right?
What Stephanus was that? Or what number?
Yeah, we're in the
Oh.
yeah.
Oh,
We're in 9.
the others will be up. The others.
See, if one has no being, the others exist. What?
See, that's interesting. He's reading in that case that, well, it doesn't matter. No.
So
I'm
there's
just fascinated by his work.
So there's no sameness. It looks like because they're all other from one another. So there's nothing common among them. So there's no same.
Well, the others are. No, is. He's right. Exist. So therefore, their mode of being is not connected in any way with being. It's necessarily. Right?
Yes.
Of course. We're in the realm of doxa, right? Now, let me give you a problem for the Republic. Could this be pistis?
Yeah.
Right? Believe in the divided line? Right? That's the source of the shadows on the wall of the cave. Right?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's kind of lovely in some ways.
Right? And they're all images. Right? They're all images. So they are reflections of images.
And they're projected by light. Well, and to some degree by firelight, right?
Right.
So they're going to be constantly shifting.
Right? Flashing. Right?
Right? Flashing and overlapping and...
Yeah, if so, then it looks like it may fit. Curious.
It's a page turner.
Let's turn the page and see what's gonna. Let's turn the page, see what's gonna happen.
And the people with the objects on their heads, they keep moving.
Yes,
The object's always changing.
and they're talking to one another, and their voices are like echoes, but it sounds like the people are speaking.
Sounds like the images, right, are speaking, right?
Right.
Shall we risk it?
Sure.
All right.
Echoes and shadows. That's life.
Okay, maybe we can go through a couple now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Is it not the case then that there will be many heaps or masses, each of which will appear to... Do we like heaps better because it allows for some distinction, or do we like it worse because it doesn't?
Well, we want to correct this as we go.
Masses better.
Okay.
Is it not the case then that there will be many masses or heaps, each of which will appear to be one, but which is not so, if indeed one will not be at all? It will be thus.
Okay. Look here. Hey. See? None. See? None are ones.
Boy, it's sure nice studying here.
Yeah.
So quiet.
Yeah.
And I was listening to tape, man.
Hey.
Crystal.
Oh, good. See, they have a diminished self. They have a diminished self. Let's see, okay?
Okay. Thus, there will also... Okay. Thus, thus it is also opined to be a number of selves, if indeed each, being many, also appear. Thus there will also thus it will also be opined to be a number of selves, if indeed each, being many, and one. Since indeed each being many.
Not a one, right? It's only the appearance of one.
That's right.
Right. So we have to none are ones, so you have to keep that going. Right?
Yeah, it might be better with since, and then you get something like, since it would also be opined to be a number of selves, since each of these, being many, is also one. Anyway, Dave can come up with that.
Yeah, I didn't like the appearance.
Yeah. Although on the previous one, he's using back to using phenomenos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Oh, good plan, Jules.
Better, huh?
It's a tricky one. Because it can be taller, right?
Actually, that can't be, but I could put it on a tape.
Or on the stool.
On the stool behind you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Good, thank you.
You cannot see are with great ideas.
Now,
All right.
this is a defense of coming up of one of our social issues today.
Oh, okay.
Get ready. Get ready.
All right. Thank you.
Right, social.
And certainly, beings among selves, and certainly, on the one hand, beings among selves will appear. Did I?
Good one, yeah.
No, that's the one I just
Thus
did,
there will
Dave.
appear to be a number of cells.
I did that one.
Okay, I'm sorry. Then I skipped one. Thus will appear to be a number of cells in each of these.
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. And certainly, beings which are among selves will appear. Damn him and his
Okay.
futures. And certainly, beings among selves appear to be even and others odd. Some appear to be even and others odd, though not truly, if indeed one will not be. I changed the translation because he added a few words,
Hey,
but I can put them back.
Odd and even in Greek thought represents male and female. Therefore, what is this? Eighth is a defense of what?
That there's sexuality.
Right.
Today's realm is
Right.
correct. Then there's like, what is that called? Neutral sexuality or
Yeah.
something.
Right.
That's
Each
only
of
an
them,
appearance.
No.
each of them
Non-binary.
can become the opposite.
Non-binary.
Each can become the opposite.
Right.
In appearance. Because
Yeah.
it says,
Well, because
although
it's
not
not-
truly.
It's not, of course not.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That allows for sex change operations.
Yeah,
Each can
Well-
appear to be the opposite without a real change.
yeah,
Well,
yeah. Yeah, there was a
one
crisis
point
on,
one could put forward.
I think they call it Headbook. No, Facebook. Facebook.
What was the crisis?
And this homosexual couple got fed up with one another, and so they sought to get their opposite, and therefore they both sought. They were men, but they were homosexual, so they decided to really go out and get a woman. And one of them got a woman, and he didn't realize that it really was someone who went through a sex change. And the other one, was just feigning it without having a physical change.
My goodness!
So the whole drama of that spinning out is on Facebook.
Really?
Headbook, whatever, Facebook, I think it's called.
Nosebook, the nose.
And whether or not they felt that they have reached their ideal is the issue.
Like ending up with a schizophrenic hermaphrodite. What half would you take?
This is the Sexes of Eve or something. What do they have, the 4 Faces of Eve or something? Yeah, the psychological movie about the woman who had
Now, we can go ahead
sexual identity.
with that.
Okay.
And therefore, now we're going to go to the other side.
And most certainly, that which is smallest, as we say, will also be opined to be, or seem to be, in selves. But this will appear to be many and great. Okay, and most certainly that which is smallest, as we have said, will also appear, or also appears to be in selves. But this will appear to be many and great. That same small thing, right? That's the this. as far as the text is concerned.
So
Pregnant guppy.
the question then is, are we continuing the same line of thought?
Yeah, and
Extreme
it's
relativity.
Either in the drawing that
Yeah.
somebody, a master can become a slave and a slave
Right.
can become master.
Right.
The roles can be switched,
Right.
greater and lesser.
Right, that's it. So we're still playing,
Yes.
and we can still say it looks.
It looks like it looks like all is relative in the extreme. Okay, how could it not? And certainly each mass will be opined to be equal to the many, and equal to the and certainly each mass will be opined to be equal to the many and small masses, for it will not appear so. Not appearing to change from a more into a lesser quality before it appears to arrive at something between. But this will be a phantasm of equality.
The process of transition is a phantom in this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
See, all of these changes that he's talked about, right? All of these changes, it's all fantasy. It's all a phantom.
Because you don't have a larger, so you can't have a larger transitioning into a smaller through equal.
So all
Right.
all of these changes that we're seeing, it's all fantasy.
Visions that you emerge from you,
Or from the opining eye.
yeah, your pining eye.
So there's no such thing as growth.
No growth. No growth. No development. That's right. That's very important.
It would certainly be conducive to drug taking. Anything that could produce a better phantasm
Yeah.
would certainly be. That would become your measure of
Yeah.
good, or
Yeah.
the greater the phantasm.
That's true.
Yeah,
Something
but-
recently about drugs being the most intimate experience because they're inside of you. So there's no sense of judging from the world, but or your position in the world, but just from within yourself.
Yeah, and it totally affects the autonomic nervous system. So you get excited and you feel down, and it's all a drama going on physically.
Okay.
Afraid.
We want to see to what degree it is phantasm.
Okay.
That's the next line.
Okay. Therefore, or is it not the case, that it appears, he's assuming that, is it not the case then, having a limit in relation to other mass, and self in relation to self, it neither has a beginning nor a limit nor a middle.
See, no growth,
No growth.
no stages, has no beginning, middle, and end.
Wow.
It's
Okay. There's no. It's interesting. They're assuming the verb in parallel structure, which works, I guess. Appears that.
now. Watch out! Now we're getting close to the modern world. Julie, want to read the next?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. For when anyone grasps something of these through the empirical mind,
What?
dianoia is pure empirical. As if it were existing, then another beginning will also always appear to be prior to the beginning. And after the end, a different end will always still remain. And in the middle, there will always be others more inward than the middle, but smaller, because each of the selves is not capable of receiving the one. And inasmuch as by the one not being. So they,
There can be no cause, no conclusion, or no resolution.
Yeah.
And it's, remember, the reason is because it's not capable of receiving the one, right? It lost, it has no stability for change, it has no, but isn't it interesting?
And there's no being then.
Yeah, right. Like, this is unpacking the preceding point. The two preceding points.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we would be satisfied with up to this point, but he spells it out.
God, it's a horror story.
Yeah.
It must be so scary to live like that. No beginning, middle, or end. You never know if you've reached your goal or how far away you are from your goal, or.
Yeah, because they're all illusory goals.
On the other hand, it wouldn't matter. You could
Right.
just-
And it doesn't matter.
You could be flailing about and cause any sort of chaos and not have any standards by which to judge your behavior.
Right. No sense of remorse or.
This
So-
really reminds me of.
It's very beautiful.
It's very easy.
Accomplishment.
It's very easy to spot
Right.
somebody who's a relativist, because when I talk to them, whenever there's a conclusion in the conversation, it's like they're allergic to it. Straight away they're like, yeah, but then again, you can't really say that. Da, da, da.
It could just as well be the opposite.
Yeah. It's like they're allergic to.
Well, that's our culture. Thou shalt not make judgments, especially about people, about other people. Unless you're a psychologist, then you can describe their behavior, but not them.
Right.
I had to teach a bunch of 7th graders yesterday, and and they were doing a project, so I couldn't really guide it, and it was just like this. But I have to admit, it's just those few. Still, they've just gotten worse. The few have gotten worse. The ones who just throw, because there's still kids there who are like in amazement because you can actually understand something when I'm talking, you know, and they're like appreciative.
Yeah.
But the chaos factor in our culture has gotten worse and stronger. Because there's, you know.
Well,
They're packing heat. Those.
see, we don't realize to what degree teachers are really in vehicles of our culture,
Yeah.
right? Like how many English teachers, pass on garbage all the time because all they do is offer what passes as literature. And what passes as literature has to be what's latest, right? Or models that represent their culture, right? And that's all they teach.
I read the website of an English teacher I was going to sub for. I didn't, but I only don't remember everything. But she says, "Why we read, it makes us feel less unalone, or more unalone."
Yeah.
That's it's very existential. There's like real no point to it other than that we're not completely devoid of any context at all. There's no quality to it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm talking
That's
very
right.
much.
That's right.
No, you're not.
Work
Helps
to do.
the
Well,
solitary
no,
confinement.
I'm keeping count. How many words? You're not reaching anywhere close to
Right.
that many.
Thank you. I just think we should move.
What's interesting here, I don't know what to make of it, but it's kind of interesting that it's so let me just start with a couple interesting words here. When anyone grasps something of these through or by dianoia, as if being, right? So it's like a heavy, the dianoia is telling them this is a being thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, and then it says, other beginning, right? Which is interesting given the context, right? We've been using, I don't know if we've been using allos for another, and you could definitely, but you should see that it's simply the word allos, right, in another form. So other beginning will also phantasy, appear prior to the beginning and after the end, right? A hetera telute, a different end, will still always remain, right? So he moves from allo arche to hetera,
Hetera.
telute, right? And in the middle, there will always be others, Allah, more inward than the middle, but smaller because of each of selves, right? Each of selves is not capable of receiving the one in as much as, there's no really and there, in as much as the not being of one. So, I thought that was interesting that the person who understands sees it as being, right? But if they push it, it becomes it's like, well, it's, in one way, you have the being that is other, and out of that comes other, right? Which is what we've been talking about, emergence, right?
Yeah.
This is kind of fun. And
See, the kind of precision in that paragraph, right?
That's like,
Right? Like, because we would have accepted the preceding argument as sufficient, but he unpacks it, right? He unpacks
beautiful. It is incredible.
it. Yeah, just,
I really I thought it was
and
splendid.
our good friend Aristoteles appreciates it,
Most true. Yeah.
right? He's
Yeah.
with it.
He's with it. 100%.
Barbara, were you saying that when we do make a conclusion that we see it as having being?
In this paragraph, that's in the 8th. Because that's what it says in the Greek here. As if, right?
As if.
It's through the dianoia, as if being. Right? It's hos. Hos on. If, in fact, he's got the words in the right order.
Oh, I see.
Or in the right modification. Interesting.
Okay, so it's this.
So, that's so fascinating.
As soon
So
as
what? Go ahead.
As soon as there's something, it shifts. As soon as it seems to have being, at that moment it shifts. Looks like.
Just always be wary of the fact that that if there's nothing underneath the English, there's nothing in the Greek. So, like he says, the then, for example. Well, there he's actually spaced out the ole as if it's underneath the then, but there isn't.
Oh, I see.
It isn't there. Although there is whenever. So I guess you could argue that whenever someone grasps something of these by dianoia, as if being, as a being. It's like you have this mass and you grasp, but then you see, you think, this has true existence as beginning, but actually that you'll go, wait, there's other, right there. That's the beginning, right? And so anyway.
It's like if you're drunk and you reach for something, but you didn't actually reach for it. It's actually over there. And then you try to reach for it again.
You've really been drunk. Woohoo! I haven't quite been that drunk, but I take your meaning, having come
This
close
is what
to
I've
it.
heard from people.
I see, okay. But does it also mean that which you saw as a beginning that had being becomes the end? Or does it just mean that the mass appears to have doesn't really matter in any sense, that the mass appears to have a different ending? Telote.
Oh. Now we're at a shift,
Okay.
right? Big shift on 17. So he goes back to the original point that he's been exploring from the idea of dianoia. So he can make a whole new set of distinctions that appear to be in the realm of experience. Now we're going into experience.
Cool.
Good place to stop.
Yeah. Well, look at that first line.
Yes.
Surely then all the being.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? So then it's really important to see that being
Yeah,
starts up
yeah,
there.
that's what. See,
Although I really like that to use dianoia here.
See, all the being which anyone can grasp through this way of thinking is going to be broken up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is this cognitive now? Are we in the cognitive
And when you break it up, you know
Because
what?
of dianoia.
You still won't have any oneness or unity.
That's right.
So the implications of that now we're going to push.
Okay.
Good place to quit?
Good place to quit.
Okay. Hey, you know what we're getting close to?
None.
What, a conclusion? No, no. Sorry, what,
No.
Pierre?
We're thinking the way he's thinking.
That's right.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right, we're appreciating the way he's viewing it, the way Aristotle, see, we have to be Aristoteles is the goal,
Yeah.
not Parmenides.
Not Parmenides. Well,
Yeah.
if we, yeah.
Right?
Then later, Parmenides.
Yeah, right.
But right now, Aristoteles.
Yeah, he's our standard.
Yeah.
They are fleshing it out a little.
Yeah, good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Pierre.
So do you want to meet here Friday?
It's up to you guys. Oh, I don't know whether I'll be done tomorrow. I don't know whether it's going to last until